Hey guys, Kitty Sapphire here, and welcome to Kitty Reacts. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves tonight, and I hope you guys are safe and healthy. How you guys are doing? So today, I'm doing my other reaction of one of my other favorite YouTubers, Gaijin Goomba. I would love to actually get a chance to meet him and talk with him and talk about mythologies of Japanese mythologies. I just love his videos. I've been watching his stuff since the first video I watched of Gaijin Goomba was when he did the comparison of different mythological gods to the summons in Final Fantasy. And I've been watching him since then. His culture shocks, his, all around stories about his trips to Japan, also his which one was the more authentic ninja, and then also my personal favorite, Yokai Hunters, or originally it used to be called Yokai Watch. Yokai Hunters I really enjoyed because I learned a lot more about the yokais in Japanese folklore, stuff that is not necessarily shown as much in anime that we're accustomed of seeing. Like, of course, my favorite yokais are basically the kitsune and the bakeneko, and then there's several other new ones that I wasn't aware of, like the tengu for one thing, the oni, the wide range of oni, the jurigumo, which I care less because or the unusual and yet interesting ushioni, which to a certain extent should have fallen in the category of me not liking it because of the arachnid like aspect of it, to its detriment due to the fact of animes of monster girls. A lot of depictions of the the ushi oni, they're kind of adorable, so I kind of wave that a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoy his yokai hunters, and each time I see his videos, more and more informed, and just makes me fall in love with mythology all over again. Not just Japanese mythology, but African mythology, investigating other like Philippines, South American folklores and stuff like that, and of course, going back to like Greek and Norse mythology, but others, and it's just very fascinating. So we're gonna watch this quick video of the Tanuki raccoon dog. Of course, we've seen a lot of them in a lot of anime and video games such as Animal Crossing and Inuyasha, even Studio Ghibli, some of the movies that they have and such, and I just I really enjoy his stuff. So we'll see what Gaijin Goomba has in store for us. So yeah, let's check this out. I love that little
Gaijin Goomba here, and welcome back to another episode of Yokai Hunters, where Japanese monster media meet to unravel the origins behind gaming and anime's coolest characters.
Back to the Tanuki well, I see.
Alright, look, what do you want from me? Tanuki are my absolute favorite yokai of all time for a great number of reasons.
That's like me in the bakeneko.
I'll talk about in my brand new secondary channel, Gaijin Perspective. Seriously, go check it out. I love making those videos.
Oh, I didn't see those.
I'm just gonna say I love them. I collect them. I made a homebrew playable race on them. I play said race in a D&D session. And if you ask any YouTuber what they make their content on, it's always what they love. Also, it's not my fault that video games keep introducing the folklore creature over and over and over again. Super Mario Bros. 3, Pocky and Rocky, Link's Awakening, Sly Cooper, Animal Crossing, Parodius, Taiko no Tatsujin, Tanuki Justice, Onmyoji, and finally, we not only have a new Tanuki to the video game roster, but a
Smite! I completely forgot about that game. Oh my god.
Danzabuto, the newest deity to arrive on the third-person folklore-inspired MOBA, Smite.
Wait, didn't we already talk about him back in the Animal Crossing episode with Tom Nook and Red?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I haven't found new stuff to talk about. I found that every popular media iteration of a folklore character always adds or bins something new to analyze.
Cool.
And Smite's interpretation of the Supreme Commander of Sado Island's Tanuki is no exception.
He's
Although,
adorable.
yes, there's gonna be some slight repeat information, so whatever. But before we tear into the history and culture of this scruffy trickster, alright, so with
I'm
all
more
that
of a
out of the
foodie,
way,
not
let me
too much
explain
into
what this
stats
guy in this
and
game
sweet
is all about. Danzabuto is a new member to the game's Hunter role. Characters that specialize in ranged, non-magical combat whose abilities typically hamper the movement of enemy players or gets themselves out of sticky situations, with Danzabuto being the poster child for this kind of gameplay. This, of course, being on top of also blasting above-mentioned enemy players with a giant bamboo hand cannon and a makeshift bamboo heat-seeking rocket.
Jeez.
He's goofy, quirky, always reveling at jokes at other people's expense, and as we've seen in the teaser animation that came before his release, an exceedingly crafty creature of business.
You mean thievery?
Perspectives.
Well, That's all well and good for what most people would write off as a more charismatic Rocket Raccoon. Let me tell you what Danzabuto was really about. Yo, to, sha, kai, in, es, dai, ren, kyurokyu no ritsuryo! Danzabuto Tanuki is an interesting take on the ultra-popular Canid Yokai. Because for everything that typical Tanuki were known for, the Supreme Commander of Sado is very characteristically different from his brethren. Danzabuto's story starts off on the mainland of Japan, where he took on the illusion of a fur trader and brought with him several Tanuki to theoretically be poached on the island. Yet, in actuality, Danzabuto had successfully relocated his entire 100-strong clan of Tanuki in an attempt to escape the horrors that were dogs, their human masters, and the greatest of Tanuki rivals, kitsune foxes. But that isn't to say that Danzabuto mistreated or was mistreated by the humans who lived on Sado. Granted, Danzabuto did have his share of folk stories where he would create illusions to confuse, fool, and otherwise harass antagonistic humans, but Danzabuto was known as a good-hearted moneylender to the poor fishermen of the island. Some legends say that he traveled to old rundown sites like temples and shrines, found forgotten relics and treasures, then pawned them off at his illusionary grand estate to travelers for gold, which he would then lend out to the poor. Others say, though, that he swindled the rich using his illusionary magic and silver tongue. Though if historian Orito is to be believed, Danzabuto would always return that which he, quote, borrowed from people, with a promissory note of the date in which he would return the pilfered money. But this didn't mean Danzabuto was one to be taken advantage of. He and his clan kept a very close eye on the loans that they gave out to the people of Sado. Though he never threatened to break anyone's kneecaps over it, Danzabuto was known to completely clasp his coin purse shut should an individual not make good on a loan. I guess you could say, in a weird sort of way, he was like a good-natured Ebenezer Scrooge of the yokai world.
Good. Solid holiday pull there, buddy. Much topical. So now that we have some grounding between the Danzabuto of Smite and the Danzabuto of Legend, let's get into some of the fine details and see just how much homework Hi-Rez did with the source material.
Okay.
I think the best place to start is going to be in the physical design. Not only because it's the first thing their eyeballs are going to see, but also because it's in the design of the characters of Smite where cultural inspiration really shines through. Smite's Danzabuto appears to have on a weaved wide-brim hat, a kamiko haori or paper coat, and below that, a kosude or short-sleeve kimono. This was an Edo style of clothing typically worn by chonin, or townsfolk involved in business and industry, something that tradesmen would wear. Yeah, curious enough, right? But have a look at the pack that Danzabuto's carrying around his back. From behind, it looks like he's got a sword, a scroll, and a few jugs in there. Now, he doesn't ever use these in-game, so maybe, just maybe, he's selling those. We already know from the animated short that he's a crafty seller of goods, so mayhaps then his backpack is full of treasures similar to those of the folklore Danzabuto who also trickily sold treasures to tarrying travelers?
Maybe.
Finally, we got the bamboo pole with the hanging Tanuki inscribed lantern, a direct parallel to a traveling salesman's advertising mechanisms. As far as I can tell, Danzabuto from Smite pulls so many mercantile references, how could he not be associated with the money-lending merchant Danzabuto of folklore?
Hey, wait a second. There, right there on the back left of Danzabuto's
Oh,
backpack.
that's the promissory
Same kind
note,
of
like
promissory
promissory notes
notes
or
that
the
Shigaraki Tanuki are constantly
IOUs?
Well, yet another connection to the Danza folklore who would leave promissory notes to those he swindled.
Yeah, there we go.
Moving on, hanging from Danzabuto's belt, which strikingly is similar to a Haori Himo, are 2 jugs of sake. How can I tell it's sake? Well, because it straight up says so. Let's not beat around the bush here. These are clearly a metaphor for one of the Tanuki's greatest assets. Which I find kind of disappointing because the massive bags that the Tanuki has nothing to do with anything lewd, but rather a centuries-old metallurgy joke. Nah, seriously, go look it up.
Alrighty, but what about the big screw-off gun that Danzabuto totes around? I don't
He's
exactly
so
recall
cute,
massive
just
matchlocks
think
being a
over it.
regular in Tanuki repertoire. Not often, anyway. But
It's like Danza says in-game.
The man with the bigger gun always wins. Or, in this case, the Tanuki.
And the gun he carries is no casual affair. This is a bohia. See, by the mid-1500s, Japan had developed an interesting obsession with firearms technology that greatly shaped the rest of the Warring States period in the country,
Makes
leading
sense.
to the creation of this new style of fire arrow. The metal rocket was wrapped in a highly flammable waterproof rope covered by paper and then tipped with a fuse, which was then loaded and fired from an Otsutsu matchlock hand cannon that gave it a huge amount of velocity. The heavy aerodynamic nature of the arrow and the oomph power behind the Otsutsu hand cannon meant that this arm-length source of fire could puncture through wood and stone with great ease, setting structures and ships aflame in the blink of an eye.
Aha! So
Yeah.
something Oda Nobunaga would have sold his sister for. Alright, highbrow historical joke. Check!
Oh,
How
God.
about abilities?
Well, all of Danzaburo's in-game abilities, as well as his character in general, seem to revolve around two things: money and alcohol. For the earlier, Dubious
Of course.
Savings gives old Danza a power increase determined by how much gold he picks up over time, while the Fool's Gold ability causes enemy players to drop money while also getting hit by an intoxication debuff, and then take explosive damage when the bags blow up. These two abilities are absolutely indicative of Danzabuto from Folklore's history with money. As we mentioned before, Danzabuto was scrupulous with his gold, not only keeping well-observed records of both his debtors and creditors, but also making a booming business for himself of cashing in old relics that he would find across Sato Island, likely using his illusionary abilities to fudge the market worth of his wares. Similarly does the Dubious Savings ability depend on a finite track of your inbound currency, and the Fool's Gold ability itself making a cultural hint to Danzabuto's tales of, quote, stealing other people's money through illusionary means.
Right, but what about all this booze talk with the Alluring Spirits ability? I don't exactly recall Danzaburo of legend having any strong ties with sake.
Well,
Dang,
that's
I
because he
really
really did.
I don't know.
The
If I
sake
had the
motif has
time
a
to
more
actually play
generalized
Smite, I
meaning
would
to it.
definitely
The
pick
ability
this
in question
character.
has Danzabuto
It
taking
looks
a hit
very
off his
interesting.
Tokuri bottle and then lobbing onto the battlefield, which slows and taunts enemies. Rather than this coming from Danzabuto being a high swagger salesman of sake, I think this, as well as all jabs at Tanuki being lovable drunkards, comes primarily from a handful of word-of-mouth folk songs. Sato Island, home of Danzabuto himself, has one such song of a Tanuki going out to buy sake. But the most famous song of a raccoon dog shopping for spirits comes from Kyoto and the surrounding area. A little ditty about a scrappy Tanuki named Mameda who made a sake salesman cry when they realized that the money that Mameda used to purchase his wares turned out to be leaves.
I guess the same thing could be said about Danzabuto's third ability, Tanuki Trickery, which creates that small patch of greenery that ups his speed, makes him immune to slows, and makes him take less damage. And should anyone get up in his grill, they get slowed and Danza walks out of the arena turning into one of several leaves as an escape.
Yeah, I remember tearing into the book of Yokai by Michael Foster and discovering that there was a guy from an island in Kagoshima Prefecture who recalled a story of another man who was basically tricked into riding a phantom train from one side of the island to the other, created by a mischievous Tanuki.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Tanuki can get a little too crazy with their magic, so they created entire landscapes of illusions.
Wow.
Yeah, and this whole leaf motif. It really is weird where the Tanuki trope came from. As far as the Tanuki putting leaves on their head in order to transform, that was loosely taken from an 1879 art piece by Kawanabe Kyosai, while the whole transformation using leaves in general was actually taken from the Tanuki's folklore cousin, the Kitsune. In the Soul Shinki, a localized 4th century Chinese script, a monk was passing by a graveyard and saw a fox attempting to balance a skull and a bunch of bones on its head. And after balancing itself, it covered its body in leaves and transformed into a beautiful woman. One of many stories that time has conflagrated into Tanuki tales, which brings us to a handful of voice lines worth breaking down.
Do not compare me to a kitsune. We Tanuki are the best. Don't you forget it.
Ah, yes, the Kori no Tatakai.
Yeah.
See, when it comes to old yokai folklore, there's a distinct and sometimes very bloody rivalry between Tanuki and Kitsune, and the battles between the two becoming known as the Kori no Tatakai, or literally the Battle of Tanuki and Kitsune. Named so for when one mashes together the kanji for Kitsune and the kanji for Tanuki, you get Kori, which itself has other meanings like a sly person, divination, and what have you, but I digress. There is no bigger poster child for the Kori no Tatakai than Danzabuto. Remember how we mentioned that he took his entire clan to Sato Island to get away from dogs, humans, and Kitsune? Well, he was gonna make sure that Kitsune never stepped foot on Sato. In one tale, while returning from the mainland, Danzabuto found a Kitsune looking for a way onto Sato. The fox saw that Danza had a boat and asked to be taken on ashore. Danzabuto agreed, but only if the fox transformed into a coat in order to ease suspicion from the locals. However, about halfway out from shore, Danzabuto casually tossed the coat-formed fox in the sea where it drowned horribly as Danza casually paddled away.
Jeez!
If you think that's rough, check this out. In another story, Danzabuto caught a gloating kitsune near Futatsu-iwa on Sato Island and challenged the fox to a duel of transformations. Cause as an old saying goes, the fox has 7 disguises, the Tanuki has 8. Danzabuto boasted that he could transform into an entire warlord's procession, a feat that the Kitsune doubted but accepted on the challenge. Just as Danzabuto disappeared out of sight, a grand daimyo procession emerged from where he had disappeared to. Utterly shocked, the Kitsune ran over to the daimyo's palanquin and kicked it repeatedly in disbelief from the illusion. Except it wasn't an illusion. It was absolutely real. and Danzabuto merrily whistled to himself, walking away as the kitsune was cut to ribbons.
Oh,
Yeah, there's
dang!
so much
That's
detailed folklore in
horrible!
this one freaking line. Guess Dashi should probably watch your back when this little fuzzball's on the field.
Yeah.
There's a handful of other things we could go on about, such as other voice lines or alternate skins, but I think y'all
Oh,
get the
that's
point.
cute!
Although
I'm in
I've
a
always
zoot
been
suit.
garbage at MOBAs, Smite has always intrigued me with how deceptively complex each and every character is designed with folklore in mind. And Danzabuto was absolutely no exception. Heck, I might stream an attempt to, quote, get good once this little furball comes out, because, like I said, I'm just a sucker for Tanuki.
And hey, speaking of suckers and other sweets, please don't forget, if you want to get your hands on a box of regionally rich snacks from Japan that you can't get anywhere else, be sure to check out that link in the description and use the code
miss
Gaijin10
Japan
to get
so
10%
much.
off
I
your
really,
bulk
really
purchase.
want to go
It
back.
supports the rich, delicious heritage of Japan and supports our ability to keep making these kinds of videos.
But as always, everyone, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my second channel, Gaijin Perspective, to get a bit more of a personalized look into my experiences in the land of the rising sun, and be sure to check out our streams every
Well, that's that. So I want to say thank you guys for watching me react to this wonderful video. I think this was very enlightening and very insight because, of course, I've seen all his other videos regarding the Tanuki. And yes, he's mentioned on several occasions the Tanuki is his favorite. And I completely understand because the Bake Neko is my favorite and talk over the moon about that particular yokai. But in any case, I want to say thank you guys so much. If you guys want to see more of these reaction videos or there's a particular video that you want to see, please put it at the bottom in the comment section below. And if you guys want to see my channel grow from here, you guys, I wish you guys to know to subscribe and like and share it with your friends. Yeah, so I hope you guys have a wonderful night and enjoyed this. Bye.